Right? I think we're going. We're going. I think the audio's all working. And what is up with it, everybody? Live from the La Penta Student Union at Iona University from the studios of WIUR. It's Woolley Mammoth Wednesdays. I am your host, Cameron Woolley, bringing you the best and only the best sports on campus. So we have quite a bit to talk about. Obviously, a lot of major stories going on in town right now. Devils Rangers is coming down to the wire like a lot of people thought it would. That series is tied up at 2. The Rangers went up 2-0 at the Rock, but then the Devils responded by winning 2 games at the Garden to tie that series at 2, heading back to New Jersey, making it a best of 3. Obviously, you got the Aaron Rodgers trade finally going through to get to the Jets. The NFL draft as a whole that's going to be happening tomorrow night. Very excited for that. And the New York Yankees, obviously, I want to touch on them because their season has been nothing short of a disaster, a predictable disaster, but still a disaster nonetheless so far in the early going. But a lot of the stuff with the Yankees is very telling. So, anyways, I guess I'll lead with hockey. It's sort of the first thing in my title. I was talking about playoff puck. I'm going to mostly center on Devils Rangers, and obviously I'm a Devils fan. I'm going to be coming from a Devils fan's perspective. The first 2 games were about as bad as they could go for the Devils, and they went about as good as you could go for the Rangers. Game 1, I talked about game 1 before. I recorded last week's show the night before game 2. The Rangers game 2 went mostly the same. The Devils did lead after the first period thanks to a power play goal by Eric Halla, but the Rangers ended up responding with, I think 3 power play goals, and they ended up winning 5-1. So overall, disaster series start for the Devils. Everyone was thinking sweep. The Devils were on the ropes. Game 3, the Rangers led 1-0. And then in the second period, before Jack Hughes scored on the power play, and then in overtime, after a back-and-forth battle, Devils also made a goalie switch. They switched from Vitek Vanacek, who's been the starter that year and has been mostly solid, to Akira Schmid, who was the Devils' backup, but a lot of people could argue that he played better than Vanacek in the smaller sample size. And then Schmid, the goaltending answer, just sort of presented itself in him. And in games 3 and 4, he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. And he kept the Rangers to 1 goal in each of the last 2 games. In game 3, Dougie Hamilton, after a really nice assist by Jesper Bratt. I've been hard on Bratt lately, saying that in the playoffs, I thought he was going to disappear. And for the first 2 games, that was the case. But then in game 3, in overtime, well, obviously he had the second assist on Jack Hughes' goal on the power play. But in overtime, he put the brakes on, won a minor puck battle, and ended up using his vision. And that is when the Devils play their best, is when their forwards are in open space and they can utilize their vision and find open shooters. And most of the time, that open shooter is Dougie Hamilton. And got it to Hamilton. Hamilton hovered down to around the bottom of the right circle and just perfectly placed shot over the glove of Igor Shesterkin. The Devils won game 3. The Devils finally had some life going into game 4. And then in game 4, same lineup, Schmid starts again. And a couple minutes in, there's this mad scramble in front of the Devils net. The puck gets by Schmid, but Jonas Siegenthaler is there to play the puck away, and in the process makes maybe the best alley-oop lob pass I've ever seen from a defenseman. From his own goalie's crease to center ice, where Jack Hughes is racing. He's flying to that puck at center ice. He gets on a breakaway, beats Shesterkin with the basic shell move back, or forehand, backhand, forehand, tucked it in. The Devils were up 1-0. Not much else happened until the third, when Vincent Trocheck tied the game on a bit of a jumbled puck, loose rebound that went in front of Schmid. You lifted up the pad. Ryan Graves, don't really know what he was doing there. Vincent Trocheck put it in, 5-hole. The Rangers tied it. A lot of momentum seemed to be going the Rangers' side in the third. Despite what the expected goal metrics would tell you, and the Devils dominated the expected goal share in every period of that game. Like, that was the most complete game the Devils played in this series so far. But fast forward a few minutes later to around 11 and a half minutes left. Nico Hischier rushing down the ice. Tell me where you've heard this before. The Devils generating a chance off the rush. Nico Hischier going in, puts the brakes on, waits for an open man, passes it all the way across the ice. Again, another smart play by Jesper Bratt to let that puck go away from him. He was kind of a decoy. Got to Jonas Siegenthaler, of all people, and Siegenthaler wires a puck by Igor Shesterkin. That would be all from like 5-on-5 in that game. Andre Palat ended up scoring an empty netter. And I do have questions about what the Rangers were doing with the empty net. They put their fourth line out there. They put Barclay Goodrow, Tyler Mott, and Jimmy Vesey out there. And of course, like, I'm not going to complain about it, but as someone who is familiar with that team, you figured they'd pull out all stops. They put Zibanejad and Panarin, even though those two haven't really done much in this series. Like, you got to put like Kreider, Miller, Fox, Kane. You got to put, like, my ideal comp for that would have been, the four forwards would have been Panarin, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Tarasenko, because Tarasenko and Kane have been great in the series. At least in the first two games, they were amazing. And at the point, you obviously got to have, like, for offense, when you're selling out for offense, you got to have Adam Fox and Keandre Miller out there, because they have been an issue this entire series, and quite frankly, their entire careers. They have been an issue for the New Jersey Devils. But it's neither here nor there. Gerard Gallant didn't make that decision. Ended up biting him. Again, we don't know if that exact comp would have scored, but I would have liked their chances a heck of a lot more than the forward line of Goodrow, Vesey, and Mott. As for Game 5, it's no secret. The momentum is in the Devils' direction. The pressure, even going into this series, the pressure was all on the Rangers, because the Rangers, their window is closing. A third of their top six are rentals in contract years, and the Rangers don't have the cap space. I mean, I'd assume they'd make a push to re-sign Tarasenko. Although I don't know about Kane, but Tarasenko has been a great fit for him. I do see Tarasenko maybe staying, but for now, Tarasenko and Kane are merely rentals, and that's how I'm going to see them. They're on the team now. They're not going to be on the team next year. So this series in the Devils' momentum, or the momentum is in their favor, obviously. The Devils they adapted in games 3 and 4. Again, no secret there. Game 3, the ice kind of started to tilt around halfway through the second when Jack Hughes scored that goal to tie the game. I think that really got a lot of confidence for them. And then in overtime, Dougie Hamilton scoring really took the wind out of the Rangers' sails. I gotta think that must have done something to them psychologically, because when you're up 2-0 in a series, you go up 3-0. That's basically, you're winning the series right there. Like, if you're up 2-0 and you win a game to go up 3-0, reverse sweeps rarely happen in hockey. When they do happen, it's typically some freakishly bad team. Like, like in 2014, the San Jose Sharks, who were notorious for choking in the playoffs, lost to the LA Kings, who were already super seasoned by that point, Stanley Cup champions the 2 years before. And the Sharks never really ended up winning anything, other than the Western Conference in 2016, before getting just slammed by the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that is that's what's happening with that series. Again, game 5. I personally see this series going 7 games. Like, these 2 teams are so evenly matched. It's ridiculous. There's a reason why this series is tied. There's a reason why most of the games that have been played between these 2 teams have been one-goal games, and the games that haven't been one-goal games were mostly due to empty netters. The only games that have been laughers between these 2 teams were games 1 and 2, and that was when the Devils didn't really know how to play playoff hockey. Then games 3 and 4, they adjusted, and also that was when Lindy Ruff was still putting Miles Wood in the lineup, which also scratching him has done this team miracles. Like I've been saying, Miles Wood has been a liability for the last, like all year, he's been a liability, but he still ended up playing around like 60 some odd games. And Lindy Ruff said it was a quote organizational decision, which basically meant Tom Fitzgerald and Marty Brodeur kicking down his door and screaming at him to scratch Miles Wood or he'd be out of a job after they got inevitably swept in that series if Wood ended up staying in the lineup. And also Brendan Smith going in for Jonas Siegenthaler in game 2, which after game 4 seems unthinkable because Siegenthaler was a major player in game 4 and the Devils winning that game. Obviously, the game-winning goal, but also the alley-oop to Jack Hughes and Jonas Siegenthaler playing some patented Jonas Siegenthaler defense. In game 5, I don't know where it's going to go. Like, I cannot predict this series right now. I could easily see the Devils winning in 6, or the Devils winning in 7, or the Rangers winning in 6, or the Rangers winning in 7. Again, these teams are freakishly evenly matched. Every model that would do predictions on who would win based on their model had Devils Rangers at close to 50-50. Like, I saw one model was like 53-47 in favor of the Devils. So this series is very likely going to go the distance. Like, I see it going to 7. And whatever happens from there, I couldn't tell you. I literally cannot tell you. After games 1 and 2, I was confident in saying the Rangers would win the series. After games 3 and 4, I don't know. Although I do think whoever wins game 5 is probably going to win the series. Because you win game 5, you have 2 chances to win. You each have 1 game on home ice. So game 5 is going to be very telling of where the series is going to go. And if the Devils win, I'd be confident in them winning. And if the Rangers win, I'll be confident in them winning. Because it's a heck of a lot easier to win 1 game than to win 2 games. Especially in a playoff atmosphere like this. But again, if it's one thing this Devils team has taught me, it's that like no matter how horribly they play, you can't count them out. You can't count them out. Also, they're young. Maybe fatigue is playing a role. You got to figure the Rangers, older team, their bodies take a lot more of a beating more easily. And the Devils, they're young. They're used to skating like this. Like Jack Hughes is playing 20 minutes a night. He's barely even breaking a sweat. You got Nico Hischier playing two-way hockey for close to 20 minutes a night. And I feel like that's been a major factor too. The Devils' top 6 has definitely taken over more and more as these games have gone on because the Rangers, it's no secret, their top 6 is not amazing at defending. Like, sure, you got guys like Zibanejad and Trocheck who can kind of defend a bit, but most of those guys are offensive, like especially Patrick Kane. Like, Patrick Kane for the last few years has been one of the worst rated defensive forwards in hockey. So the Devils' top 6 has been sort of taking over more, especially defensively. And that's a major part in why the Rangers have only scored 1 game in the last couple of games. But anyways, that's all I really have to say about that series. Actually, no, I could go on for hours about that series and how it's going to go. But there's other things we have to talk about, most notably in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, that trade finally went through between the Packers and the Jets, even though it's a foregone conclusion over a month ago. It was over spring break when Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee's podcast and said he wants to play for the New York Jets. And then there were a bunch of snags in the deal. And ultimately, the major pieces that came away from this, other than Rodgers, where the Jets had to trade back a couple of picks in the draft. And they had to give up a conditional second, which is probably going to become a first. Because Rodgers just needs to play like 65% of the snaps for the Jets this year. But other than that, it's been just a bunch of late round picks, mid-late round picks, just random stuff that you throw in there, like could become something great if you know how to draft. And the Green Bay Packers, I don't really trust their drafting record. Like, sure, they've had a decent run at receivers the last few years. I mean, Devontae Adams, who ended up going away. Alan Lazard, who ended up going away. And a couple other guys who I'm forgetting who are probably going to be on other teams in the near future. As for what this does to the Jets' expectations, I can say for the first time in years that I think the Jets are going to be a really good team. Like, sure, they're still the Jets, same old Jets. I get it. But hear them out. They have Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Nathaniel Hackett was his offensive coordinator when he won back-to-back MVPs. It's not really a secret. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best to do it, one of the best to ever do it. And there are going to be issues with the New York media, with Aaron Rodgers being who he is. Issues I am very excited to see come up. Like, WFAN is going to be amazing with Rodgers on the Jets doing just Aaron Rodgers things. Like, come on, like he's going to say something in a presser. It's like, I really view myself similarly to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, he's going to say that, and WFAN's not going to know what to do with it. Like, imagine Aaron Rodgers on a Sunday after a game, like, dresses up in some weird outfit and goes up to a podium where he faces the New York press. And these reporters ask him questions, and all he does is give super cryptic answers. And then it's the next morning. It's going to be Boomer and Gio trying to break it down, trying to decipher what he said. Then after that, it's going to be Tiki Barber and Brandon Tierney trying to break down what he said. And after that, it's going to be Craig Carton and Evan Roberts trying to break down what he said. It is going to be hilarious. And not to mention all of the headlines on the back page of the Post. It is going to be, if nothing else, it's going to be entertaining. Seeing Aaron Rodgers spar against the New York media. It is going to be amazing. Because Aaron Rodgers has been a lunatic for the last 5 years. Actually, his entire career, he's really been a lunatic. Pulling up to training camp dressed like Nick Cage and Con Air. Imagine that at Jets training camp. Because the Jets are going to be the big talk of town. The Jets are the big talk of town right now. Actually, the Knicks. The Knicks right now are a bigger topic right now than the Jets. But when training camp rolls around, the Jets are going to be the talk of not only the city, not only the tri-state area, they're going to be the talk of the country. When Aaron Rodgers pulls up at training camp and he does his first press, he walks in dressed up as whatever fictional character he decides to cosplay that week. And he goes up in that cosplay and ends up fielding questions from the press. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Like, he's going to be a very good quarterback. He's probably going to throw around like 40 touchdowns, only like 5 picks. Going to lead the Jets to the playoffs. Going to probably win them a playoff game or two. Maybe get them to the AFC Championship game. I don't know. But the bottom line is Aaron Rodgers and the New York media is going to be a movie that I, for one, cannot wait to see. Like, unfortunately, I don't have press credentials yet. But if I was a reporter for any random publication in town, I would beg. I'd be on my knees begging to be at Jets training camp. Because that is going to be some entertainment. Quality entertainment. Watching Aaron Rodgers go against them. Also got the NFL draft coming up tomorrow night. I'm very excited to say it. I am going to be on the Into the Stands draft special from 10 to 11. Probably around when the Giants pick is happening. Because the NFL draft takes a while. You gotta go through all the picks and you gotta go through all the ESPN stories. Talk about like, oh, this kid, oh, this happened to him. This happened to him. Just like really just trauma dumping for these poor kids. Or actually, no, I should say like poor kids. They're getting drafted in the NFL. This is their dream come true. But like really airing everyone's baggage from their childhoods on draft night. So the draft is obviously going to take a while. So I'm probably going to be on for the Giants pick at 25 if they don't trade out of it. I had my buddy send me his board. My friend Ethan, who writes for like he has his own Substack site. Yeah, I'm using Ethan Football's big board for this draft. I'm using his positional rankings as well because I haven't had the time to watch film. I do have my opinions on prospects, especially the quarterbacks. I think that Will Levis is going to get somebody fired when he eventually does get drafted. I saw a report saying that the Houston Texans are leaning toward taking him at number 2, which please let that happen. Like I am begging for that to happen. Like I want to see Will Levis get picked 2nd overall by the Texans. And Anthony Richardson as well. I think him and Levis are being kind of overvalued. The quarterback market, I understand that getting a quarterback and getting a good one, especially on a rookie deal nowadays, is so important. And you got to jump on one that you think is good. But the last few years, I have seen some teams be very reckless and reach way too far for a quarterback in like the top 5 or the top 10 who shouldn't be a top 10 pick. The only draft that I've seen a quarterback not be super overvalued was last year's draft when Kenny Pickett got picked 20th overall. That's what it took for quarterbacks to not be super duper overvalued. Was a quarterback class that was not even mid, because a mid draft class like going in was 2019. But even then, Kyler Murray was picked number 1. Daniel Jones was picked number 6. Dwayne Haskins was picked number 15. So even a mid quarterback class ends up getting a couple of guys in the top 10 because teams are so eager and so ready to jump on quarterbacks when they don't even realize they have other problems on the roster that they have to fix, which are major reasons why they're picking in the top 5. Because a lot of teams take a quarterback without having the proper support system around them. That's what caused Daniel Jones at such a snag earlier in his career, was because a GM who didn't have his guy at quarterback took him, reached for him at 6th overall without a proper support system in place, without his coach, without a proper roster without an offensive line, without receivers, without defense, just after just trading Odell Beckham, by the way. Although the Odell Beckham trade, we somehow won that trade by getting Dexter Lawrence out of it because Dave Gettleman happened to throw a dart at that guy and it ended up sticking. So I think this is going to be one of those drafts where a couple of quarterbacks, and I think those quarterbacks are going to be. I do think Richardson does have potential. I definitely think Richardson does have some potential to be a very good quarterback in the right system. But the thing is, a lot of these teams are going to be aiming for quarterbacks in the top 10. Like who? Carolina, they just traded their top receiver to get the number 1 overall. Any quarterback getting drafted there is in a very suboptimal situation. About Houston, going there is an awful fate. Number 1 and 2 should be Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. If they're getting picked there, and even then, the only quarterback who I'm confident in this draft is Young. I've been talking about Bryce Young for years. I've been pounding the table on him. I've been saying this guy's going to be good. And I do think if he gets drafted by the Panthers, which would not be good for him, sure, he'd make a lot of money. He'd get a massive signing bonus. But from a football standpoint, going to the Carolina Panthers is not a good situation because they mortgage their entire future on a quarterback who is a good talent. Like, I think Bryce Young is going to be good, but he's not a sure bet. Say like Joe Burrow or Trevor Lawrence or going back like Andrew Luck or like Peyton Manning. He's not that. Like, he's nowhere close to those guys. Although I'm confident in Bryce Young being a good quarterback in this league. I think with the right development, with the right amount of pieces around him, sure, the Panthers got to hit on whatever few picks they have because they traded all of them, trading up the first overall. So Young better be. He better be a can't-miss quarterback. And also, talking about support systems, Bryce Young played at Alabama. Like, can you think of... Actually, Alabama hasn't really been the class of college football lately, though. It's mostly been Georgia. Although Bryce Young did play on some great teams. He played for Alabama. He threw some pretty good receivers. He had a pretty good offensive line. He had a pretty darn good coach, too, in Nick Saban. Let's not forget. He also had a great defense. So going from Alabama to the NFL, it's a little, I don't know. Going from the NFL or going from the NFL to the Carolina Panthers, yeah, that's a good one. But going from Alabama to the Carolina Panthers, that's an adjustment that I think Bryce Young can make. He's a good quarterback. But anyways, enough about Bryce Young. I'm done rambling about Bryce Young. Unlike my real big take of the draft, Will Levis, some team is going to draft him in the top 10, whether it be the Colts, the Texans. Like, hold up. I got to look at the NFL draft order this year. It was like, this is how much I'm not paying attention to the draft. Whether Levis be drafted by the Panthers, Texans, Colts, Raiders, Falcons, or maybe even just maybe Detroit Lions if they're not really comfortable with Jared Goff. Whatever one of those teams I just mentioned takes Will Levis, the GM of that team and the head coach of that team who sunk their entire careers into Will Levis, they're going to be out of football within 3 years. Because Josh Allen has warped the perspective on NFL draft prospects. And I'll come out and say I was one of those people who liked Josh Allen. Coming out, Josh Allen's my big victory as my big victory take as a sports fan. It's like, oh, geez, Josh Allen. Yeah, this guy's going to be good with the right development. Give him some patience, but he'll be good under the right system. And sure enough, he got drafted into the right system. Although Josh Allen hasn't really won much. Although he was playing on the Bills, so it was a bit difficult to win anything in Buffalo. But nonetheless, he still hasn't seen the success that's been expected of him the last 3 years. We can't view every quarterback who didn't put up big numbers in college, but can throw the ball really far and run the ball adequately. We can't be calling guys like Will Levis, Josh Allen. And I think that's the thing that's going to happen in every draft. There's going to be some quarterback who throws for 20 touchdowns in his draft year and is mid. For all intents and purposes, is mid. I've seen Will Levis play. I've watched a couple of games. He's mid. Nothing about him really impresses me that much. So he's going to be overdrafted and he's going to sink. And whatever GM and coach decide to take him, they'll be fired. Because I have no faith in Will Levis as an NFL quarterback. I have absolutely no faith. As for my New York Football Giants, who are probably going to be picking when I'm on stream, there are a lot of places the Giants could go. The big thing that I'm seeing right now is receiver, corner, or center. I would love them to take a guy like Zay Flowers. Because with receivers, when they're in the first round, receivers are a pretty can't miss position group in the NFL when it comes to the draft in the first round. If the Giants take a guy like Zay Flowers, and this receiver class is so deep, and I understand that it's deep, and there is a case that you can be like, maybe they could take a corner and then take a receiver in the second round. If there's one of those studs like Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnson or JSN or Zay Flowers there, I don't know if I said Zay Flowers in that list, but if one of those guys is there at 25, I'd want the Giants to pick him because you signed Daniel Jones to this extension. Sure, it's an extension that has an out in it after 2 years. Only half of it's guaranteed. You can cut bait after 2 years if it doesn't work out. But you signed Daniel Jones to this contract. You're sinking a lot of money into him. You're sinking on average $40 million a year into him. The cap hit, not very high this year, but the next year and the years after that, if you decide to keep him, that's going to be a lot of money going to your quarterback. And when you pay a quarterback that much money, when you put that much into a quarterback in draft capital and in actual financial capital, you have to surround him with good receivers. Trading for Darren Waller was a fantastic move, and it's a move that I didn't really see the Giants making, but it's a move that I'm thrilled that they made nonetheless. They needed a playmaker at tight end. Sure, Bellinger's fine, but he's way more suited as a number 2 tight end. Dable likes to run a couple of tight end sets. Darren Waller has been one of the best tight ends in the league when he's healthy. And sure, that's a caveat when he's healthy. It's a caveat that I hate bringing up, but it's a caveat nonetheless. When he's healthy, he's one of the best. I do want the Giants to take a receiver at 25. That is where I want them to go. You can go defensive back in the second round unless there is a defensive back who's there. You just can't miss. Let's say a guy like a Joey Porter Jr. is there or a Christian Gonzalez, maybe. But I'm leaning more toward the receivers because I personally like the receivers in this draft a lot more than I like the corners. I feel like a corner you can pick one up somewhere down the line in free agency or in trades when you can sign one that's more proven product. Also, Adoree Jackson did a fine job last year. I could also see them going for center. I love the center from Minnesota. I'd love if like as a Giants fan, I can't complain about them taking an offensive lineman. I have no right to complain about them going O-line, especially a center after losing Nick Gates and John Feliciano. The Giants currently have no center. They're going to pick one up in the draft, I assume, at some point, whether it be an actual center or a guard, or they're going to convert to center. But that wouldn't exactly be a smart move. And the Giants, I feel like, are smarter than that. So they're probably going to take a natural center in the draft. But you can wait until the second round to take a center, unless, like, if you're taking a center in the first round, you're getting, like, Alex Mack. Like, you're getting Jason Kelce if you're taking a center in the first round, if that's how good he is. You're getting a guy like Jason Kelce if you're taking a center at that spot, that high in the draft. I guess I'll talk about the Yankees now. I guess I kind of have to because this is bad. Like I got no way to sugarcoat this, and I've been harsh on the Yankees, and guess what? They're proving me right. The Yankees have been you cannot sugarcoat it. They have been bad. You know the Oakland Athletics, the team that is drawing like less than 8,000 fans a night and is moving to Las Vegas, intentionally losing. They are flagrantly tanking. And they have more hits than the New York Yankees. The Bronx Bombers, team that came into the year with World Series hopes. If you can believe that. This team, who is half a game out of last in the AL East, came into this year with World Series hopes. This is how bad things have gotten. They lost the season series against the Minnesota Twins. No, sorry, the Minnesota Tees. They lost the season series to the Twins, and they're on the verge of being swept. And as a matter of fact, game's going on right now. Let's see what's going on with that game. Now watch them be winning by like a bunch of runs right now, and just to make a fool out of me. Okay, let's see what's going on with the game. Oh, wait, it's 9-1 Yankees in the top of the fourth. Yeah, but they're still not fooling me. They're still not fooling me. Nice try, but they're not. Okay, let's see what's been going on though. They're leading 9-1 in the fourth inning because of course they are. Of course, that's what they're doing to bring my hopes up. Of course, Willie Calhoun got an RBI. Again, but that can't fool me. I am too familiar with their game. This team is a full-blown disaster. And it doesn't matter how badly they kick the teeth in against the Twins. But this team's still a disaster. They're still going to do nothing. They're still running like Willie Calhoun out there batting fifth. And they always say, oh, when we get healthy, we've been hit with injuries. Dude, they've been getting hit by injuries every year. Like, what's that? Like you have a roster composed of mostly your key players in their mid-30s, and you don't fill up your bench, and you're shocked that the big sluggers on the team get hurt, like Stanton, like Bader, although Bader's not really a slugger, but then Rodon, who's had an injury history, he's all of a sudden facing a billion setbacks. Like, I'm supposed to be shocked that the team's losing games because they're getting injured and their bench might be the worst in baseball. Again, I don't care how much they're winning today. Because the team, I guarantee, like tomorrow, they're going to be just as bad. They're going to go back to being who else but the New York Yankees. And that's a bad thing. Nowadays, at least. It's gotten to the point where, like, as a fan, because my other teams, like, got their act together and are doing well. It's like with the Yankees, I've really hit a point where I'm just watching and curious to see how bad it gets. Like, it's gotten to the point, like, call me crazy, but it's kind of fun watching them lose anymore. Like, it's fun because I get to see all the guys make excuses, and I get to see the people who still somehow have faith in this team, like, like try and cope and try and manage their their emotions when their team lets them down again. Like, again, this is just like the gullible sector of this fan base is going to be fooled by this win because 9-1 in the fourth inning, it's pretty much over. So I'm not being fooled. I'm not fooled by the Yankees, for I am too familiar with their game. Anyways, that's about all I have for tonight. Just a couple of announcements before I sign off. Tomorrow night, Into the Stands doing their NFL draft show. I'm going to be going on at 10, going on from 10 to 11 to talk about the draft. That's going to be really fun. Also, tonight, Iona Esports, a couple of things are happening with them. Tonight, we are doing a Mario Kart tournament. It's a fundraiser, $3 entry fee. All proceeds go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So again, all the proceeds go to a good cause. I put the flyer up on my Instagram story. So if you're interested, swing by the La Penta public game room, which is only a couple of doors down from the studios of WIUR. I'm very excited to compete in it. You're going to be playing against a lot of good players. It's always very fun to play Mario Kart because Mario Kart's one of the few games that I actually consider myself to be kind of good at. So I'm very excited to play in that. Also, another thing with Iona Esports, the Rocket League team on their run, they defeated the University of Kentucky last week, and they are now playing for the ECAC championship against Fisher College, one of the best esports programs in the country, one of the best Rocket League collegiate teams in the country, the top seed. Iona University on their Cinderella run, number 27. Very excited to watch those guys go out, and hopefully they can come away with a win. Because if it's anything that those guys have told me, like, Stone D, DJ, Jeremy, like, I've talked with them for, there's no, like, I'll see them around and I'll tweet at them. And obviously, Stone D has a Twitch account where he streams the games from. So, like, I'm very excited to see that. Hopefully, you guys give some support for both things that are going on with Iona Esports as the 2022-23 academic year comes to a close. Again, best of luck to everybody on the papers that you all are inevitably doing this week and will probably put off until the last possible second. Obviously, good luck on all the presentations, finals, everything that is going to be happening the last couple weeks of this school year as we all get wrapped up. And by the time I am back next Wednesday, the Devils Rangers series is going to be over. I'm going to be talking a lot about that. NFL draft is going to be over. I'll have some things to say about that and the normal monotony of baseball that's also continuing as well. So, I'll be back next Wednesday. Obviously, very excited to go on tomorrow night. And from the studios of WIUR at the La Penta Student Union at Iona University, this is Cameron Woolley signing off.